My brother Zachary, 41, had been fighting addiction for years. When we thought he was finally turning his life around, everything came crashing down inside the courthouse. What I thought would be a routine hearing turned into the most shocking betrayal I've ever experienced. Family secrets came out, tears were shed, and our entire family was torn apart in front of strangers. I never thought my life would play out like some bad courtroom drama, but here we are. My brother Zachary is 41 years old, and for as long as I can remember, he's been battling addiction. We're talking years of excuses, abstinence, promises, and relapses. He's the kind of person you want so badly to believe in because when he's sober, he's charismatic and smart. But when the addiction takes hold, he becomes someone I don't even recognize. This whole mess started because Zach had gotten into trouble again. This time, it wasn't just possession charges. He'd been caught stealing from our cousin Emily's business, taking money right out of the family circle to feed his habits. Emily, 38, was devastated. She'd worked so hard to build her small bakery, and a betrayal cut deep. My mum begged her not to press charges, but Emily said, "I'm done protecting him. He needs to face the consequences." So that's how we all ended up at the courthouse on a grey Tuesday morning. The building itself had that sterile government feel, white walls, flickering fluorescent lights, the smell of burnt coffee lingering in the air. We sat on the hard wooden benches, me, my mum, and Emily, waiting for Zach to walk in. When he finally did, I swear my heart dropped. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled, his tie crooked, and his eyes had that hollow, glassy look I knew too well. But what shook me most was the way he smirked, like he wasn't even worried. I leaned over to him before the hearing started and whispered, "Zach, this is serious. Don't mess around. Mum's heart can't take another one of your disasters." He just smirked deeper and muttered, "Relax, I've got a handle." That's when I started to feel like something wasn't right. The hearing began, and the prosecutor laid out the charges: theft, fraud, and repeated probation violations. Emily sat next to me with her arms crossed, her jaw clenched so tight I thought her teeth might break. Mom had tears in her eyes already. When the judge asked Zach if he had anything to say, he stood up, cleared his throat, and dropped the bomb that flipped my entire world upside down. He said, "Your Honor, I want the record to show that my own family has been enabling me for years. They've covered for me, hidden my mistakes, and even given me money knowing I'd spend it on. My brother especially, he gave me cash last month and told me not to tell anyone." The whole room went silent. I felt like I'd been sucker punched. My mum gasped, Emily turned to me in shock, and I couldn't even form words. I had never felt betrayal that deep in my life. The silence in that courtroom was suffocating. I swear you could hear the buzzing of the fluorescent lights above us. Everyone's eyes turned toward me like I was suddenly the villain of Zachary's story. "Wait, what?" I blurted out before I could stop myself. My voice cracked, and I could feel the heat rising in my face. The judge gave me a sharp look. "Sir, you'll need to remain quiet unless called upon." The tack just kept going, calm as ever, like he'd rehearsed this betrayal. "Yeah, my brother slipped me cash and told me to keep it between us and my mum. She's been covering for me with Emily for months. They all knew I wasn't clean. They just wanted to keep up appearances." "Zachary," my mum gasped, her voice breaking. She clutched her purse like it was the only thing anchoring her to the bench. "How dare you?" Emily turned to me, her eyes narrowing. "Did you really give him money, after everything, after he stole from me?" Her voice was sharp, low, the kind of tone that made me feel 10 years old again, like I was in trouble with a teacher. I stammered. "It wasn't like that. He said he needed it for rent. I didn't know he..." But even as the words left my mouth, I realized how weak they sounded. Deep down, I knew exactly where that money was going, but I convinced myself that helping was better than watching him spiral. Now here he was, using that moment of weakness as ammo against me in open court. The prosecutor raised an eyebrow like this was Christmas morning. "Your Honor, I think it's clear we're dealing with a pattern of enabling and deception within the family unit." The judge banged the gavel once, trying to regain order, but the damage was already done. My mom was crying quietly beside me, whispering, "How could you say that? Zach, how could you throw your brother under the bus like this?" Zach didn't even look at her. He stared straight at the judge, voice steady. "Because it's the truth, and I'm tired of taking the fall when my whole family's part of the problem." That was the exact moment I realized this wasn't just about addiction anymore. This was about revenge. He wanted us to pay to drag us down with him. The judge called for a short recess, and we all shuffled into the hallway. The courthouse smelled faintly of bleach and paper, but all I could smell was betrayal. Emily cornered me first. "So it's true. You gave him money. You knew he wasn't clean, and you let him keep bleeding us dry." Her voice cracked on the last words, her eyes brimming with tears. I was trying to help. I shot back. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to watch him waste away?" My mom grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my sleeve. He twisted it. "Don't let him turn us against each other. He's sick, honey, he's sick." But even as she said it, I could see the doubt in her eyes. The courthouse walls suddenly felt like they were closing in. And Zach, he stood across the hall, leaning against the wall like he hadn't just set off a bomb in our family. He even smirked when he caught my eye. That smirk told me everything he wasn't done yet. The recess felt like it lasted hours, though I think it was only 20 minutes. Everyone milled around the courthouse lobby, murmuring in hushed tones, but all I could hear was the ringing in my ears and the thudding of my heart. "Zachary." He just leaned against the wall, arms crossed, smirking like he was watching a movie he directed himself. When the hearing resumed, things went from tense to catastrophic. The prosecutor started presenting evidence, a paper trail of cash transfers, emails, and messages between me and Zachary. I froze as the screenshots of my text flashed on the courtroom monitor. "Here's some money. Don't spend it all on stupid stuff." My stomach dropped. Every word I had typed in good faith was now being used as proof of my complicity. I could see Emily's expression, anger mixed with betrayal, the kind of look that cuts deeper than a knife. Then the real bombshell dropped. Zachary's lawyer asked him if he had any other information to present about family involvement. That's when he hit us with it. Yes, Zach said slowly, savouring every syllable. Not only did my brother give me money, but my mother also secretly took funds from Emily's business account without their knowledge to cover my expenses while she knew I was relapsing. The room went utterly silent. I felt my jaw lock. My mom's face went pale, her hand shaking as she whispered, "Zachary, that's saying." "Oh." Emily gasped, stepping back from the bench, tears brimming. "What? Mom, is that true?" I opened my mouth to defend her, but the words stuck in my throat. I knew my mom had helped Zachary financially before, but stealing from Emily, that was something entirely different. And now Zach was presenting it like a smoking gun, right in front of the judge, the prosecutor, and the entire courtroom. "Objection," my mom cried, her voice trembling. "I would never." "Your Honour," the prosecutor interjected, "we'll need to verify these claims, but it's clear the family dynamic is complicated and possibly contributing to ongoing criminal behaviour." Zachary leaned back in his chair, looking at me and Emily like he'd won a game of chess. "You all thought you were helping me, but you were just feeding the problem, and now everyone knows." I wanted to scream, to hit him, to rip his smug little smirk off his face. But I couldn't. I felt paralysed, watching my mom sink into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably, and Emily staring daggers at me, her trust shattered. At that moment, I realised that Zachary wasn't just battling addiction, he was manipulating everyone around him, weaponising our guilt and love against us. What I had assumed was concern and care had been twisted into ammunition for his ultimate betrayal. The judge called for another brief recess, but the damage was done. Our family, my mom, Emily, and I, were all fractured now. And Zachary? He was standing at the centre of it, smiling, like he'd orchestrated a perfect storm. For the first time in years, I felt completely powerless not against his addiction, but against the sheer audacity of his betrayal. The second recess ended, but the tension didn't ease, it thickened, like the air itself had turned heavy. When the judge called us back in, the room felt smaller somehow, every wall pressing closer, every whisper echoing. Zachary walked and laughed, like he owned the place, a smirk never leaving his face. The prosecutor wasted no time. "Your Honour, the evidence suggests ongoing manipulation within the family, which may have contributed to the defendant's criminal behaviour. We request further examination of the financial transactions and family involvement." Zachary raised his hand. "Your Honour, I'd like to speak directly to my family." The judge hesitated but nodded. Zachary's gaze landed on me first, sharp and deliberate. "You," he said, pointing a finger, "you think you were helping me, but giving me cash just kept me addicted. You weren't my brother, you were my enabler, and now everyone knows." My throat tightened. I tried to defend myself, but my words were swallowed by a tidal wave of shame and disbelief. Emily's eyes were on fire. Mom was shaking, and I could feel the courtroom buzzing with tension, every person sensing the storm about to break. "And that's not all," Zachary continued, turning his glare to Mom. "You, Mom, thought you were protecting me, but you crossed the line. You stole from Emily's business account to bail me out, and now the entire family is lying in pieces because of your actions. All of you hypocrites." The words hit like bullets. I looked at Mom. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing, whispering, "It's not true. I swear it's not true." But Zachary wasn't done. He leaned forward in his chair, voice low but venomous. "And Emily, you pretended to trust me, but you were part of the charade. You let me borrow money before and didn't stop me when you could have." Emily's jaw dropped. "Zachary, are you serious? You've—" She stopped, disbelief overtaking her, tears rolling freely now. The judge slammed the gavel to regain control. "Order, this courtroom is not for personal attacks. All statements must be relevant to the case at hand." Zachary leaned back smugly. "Everything I just said is relevant, Your Honour. It's the truth. The whole family contributed to my downfall, intentionally or not, and it's time everyone faced that." At that moment, I realised this wasn't just about his addiction anymore. He was using it as a weapon. Every lie, every exaggeration, every subtle truth he twisted, it was all designed to fracture us, to make us feel guilty and complicit. I looked at Mom and Emily, and for a brief moment, all I could do was pray. Pray that somehow, some way, we could survive this betrayal. That our family, though broken, could find a way to piece itself back together. But Zachary, he was still smirking, still calm, still orchestrating chaos like a maestro, and I knew deep down this wasn't over. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next, and I braced myself for the storm that was far from finished. The courtroom felt like it was closing in on us. I could hear my own heartbeat thudding in my ears as Zachary smirked across the room, clearly enjoying every second of the chaos he'd created. Mom was slumped in her chair, sobbing quietly, and Emily kept shooting daggers at me with her eyes. I could feel her judgment piercing straight through me. Then it happened, the moment that would be burned into my memory forever. Zachary stood up again, glancing at the judge before speaking in that unnervingly calm voice. "Your Honour, I want to confess something that will clear the air, not just for me but for everyone here. I've been using my addiction as a weapon. I manipulated my own family. I lied, I stole, I cheated, and not just out of weakness, but to make sure I could control every outcome." A hush fell over the courtroom. Even the bailiff froze mid-step. Mom gasped loudly. Emily's hand flew to her mouth. "What are you talking about?" I croaked, my voice breaking. "Zachary, stop this. You're making everything worse." He ignored me. "I framed some of the threats on my addiction. I lied about Mum taking money from Emily. I lied about the text you gave me. I did it all to protect myself and to punish you for not noticing sooner, for not stopping me when you could have." I felt like the floor beneath me had vanished. My own brother, my family, was systematically dismantling everything I thought I knew. The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Zachary, are you claiming that some of your statements about your family were false?" "Yes," Zachary said with a smirk. "Some, but not all. And that's what makes it fun, isn't it? Confusion, betrayal, everyone's second-guessing themselves. That's my masterpiece." Emily's face went pale. You made us all look like criminals in court. You made me doubt my own family. I had to, Zachary said, shrugging nonchalantly. Otherwise, nothing would have changed. You'd still see me as the helpless addict, but I'm not helpless, I'm powerful. I control how you feel about me, and you can't stop me. Mom fell to her knees, shaking, crying, whispering, my baby, she didn't mean me, she meant Zachary, but I could see the despair in her eyes. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him understand the depth of the destruction he had caused. But he was untouchable, a puppet master of chaos, and there was nothing I could do in that sterile, judgmental room. The prosecutor finally spoke up. Your Honour, while some statements may be false, the defendant's ongoing addiction and manipulation are clearly impacting the family dynamic and criminal matters. We request a thorough psychological evaluation. Zachary just leaned back in his chair, still smirking, like he had already won some twisted victory. I couldn't believe it. Everything I thought I understood about family loyalty, trust, and love had been turned inside out. And Zachary? He stood at the centre, untouchable and unrepentant, laughing quietly at the emotional wreckage around him. In that moment, I realised addiction had been only one part of the story. The real horror was his betrayal, and there was no turning back from it. The courtroom was electric with tension, each heartbeat seeming louder than the last. I sat frozen, staring at Zachary, who looked impossibly calm despite the storm he'd created. Mom was curled into herself, quietly sobbing, and Emily's hands were trembling as she clutched her purse like it was a lifeline. The judge finally spoke, her voice stern but measured. Mr. Zachary, your confessions, admissions, and manipulations are noted. The court will consider these factors carefully. You are ordered to undergo full psychological evaluation, and your probation terms will be reviewed. The family's involvement, as alleged, will also be scrutinised, though evidence will be verified before any further judgment. Zachary smirked but didn't comment. I wanted to scream at him, to shake him, and demand why he had done this to us. After the judge adjourned this session, we were led to the hallway to discuss the next steps. Emily turned on me first. I trusted you, she spat, her voice shaking with anger. I trusted you with my business, with my money, and you enabled him. I thought I was helping. I tried to explain, my voice cracking. I didn't realise it would get twisted like this. I didn't know he would. You didn't know? Emily interrupted, her eyes wide. You gave him money knowing he was still using. Do you have any idea how that looks? Mom wrapped her arms around herself, shaking her head. He's sick, Emily. He's manipulating us. That's why he's like this. You have to understand. But even as she said it, I could see the cracks in her own conviction. Zachary's betrayal had hit her just as hard as it had hit Emily and me. We left the courthouse in a haze. The sky outside was grey, matching the heaviness that settled over us like a storm cloud. Zachary had been taken in for his evaluation, walking past us with a smug little smirk like he'd just delivered the performance of his life. In the car, Emily finally broke down. I can't believe he did this. I can't believe I was blind enough to trust him again. Mom reached over and squeezed her hand. We all made mistakes, but we have to stick together now, more than ever. Zachary is sick, but we can't let him destroy us. I sat silently, staring out the window, feeling the full weight of betrayal and helplessness. Everything I thought I knew about family trust had been shattered. Zachary had weaponized his addiction against us, twisting our love and concern into guilt and chaos. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words, his smirk, the way he'd systematically dismantled our sense of safety and trust in front of strangers. I realised then that recovering from this betrayal would be harder than anything I'd faced in years. Zachary wasn't just battling addiction. He had become a master manipulator, and we were all caught in his storm. But one thing was clear, even in the darkest moments, we had to survive. We had to rebuild. And maybe, just maybe, that would be the real battle ahead, healing our family after the most shocking betrayal we'd ever faced. The days after the courthouse were a blur. Zachary was in a facility for his psychological evaluation and addiction treatment. Oh, I doubted he was genuinely committed. He had always been a master at playing the part. Meanwhile, Emily and Mom tried to patch the holes in our fractured family, though I could feel the tension in every conversation, every glance. Emily, still hurt, refused to let me near her bakery at first. I can't trust you after what happened, she said, voice trembling. Not until I know you really understand what this cost us. I swallowed hard. I do understand. I never should have enabled him. I thought I was helping. I see now I made everything worse. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I believe you, but trust isn't fixed overnight. Mom tried to mediate between us, but even she had her own guilt to grapple with. She admitted later, quietly, I thought I was protecting him. I didn't realise I was feeding his manipulation. I never wanted to hurt any of you. Her tears were raw, honest, and I knew she wasn't lying. For the first time, I started to realise something important. Zachary's betrayal was just a symptom of a much bigger problem, his addiction and his refusal to face it honestly. And while it had fractured our family, it had also forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. We slowly started to talk again, cautiously. Emily allowed me back into her bakery after a week, just to help with deliveries. Mom joined us, but all three of us, Mom, Emily, and I agreed on one thing. We needed boundaries with Zachary. No more bailouts. No more lies tolerated. I still see him occasionally during visits, though each encounter is tense. Zachary sometimes tries to manipulate conversations, but we've learned to hold our ground. It's exhausting, but necessary. One evening, sitting on the porch, Mom admitted something that hit me hard. I was always afraid of losing him, but in trying to protect him, I almost lost us all. I don't know if we can ever fully go back to how things were, but maybe we can rebuild a new kind of family. I nodded, thinking about the long road ahead. We had all been broken in different ways by addiction, by betrayal, by manipulation. But the pieces were still there, scattered and jagged, waiting to be put back together. Emily finally smiled, a small but genuine curve of her lips. We'll get there, she said. Just never let him control us like that again. and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Zachary's betrayal had cut deep, but it had also forced us to confront what truly mattered: honesty, accountability, and the strength to protect each other, even when it's painful. The courthouse drama was behind us, but the lessons it left were permanent. Betrayal hurts. Addiction destroys. But family, if it's strong enough, can survive even the most shocking storms. We didn't know what the future held for Zachary. We didn't know if he'd ever truly recover. But we did know one thing: our family, though bruised, was still standing. And that was the first step toward healing.